Well, hello. This is the 12th of April. This is a Friday. We are starting off with our Gluster topics today. There's not much been happening on Gluster upstream projects, so we decided that along with the pieces that we talk about, we'll also kick off a series on being able to troubleshoot and do diagnostics on Gluster. On the Gluster users mailing list, we often see that users write in with their problems, and there's a whole lot of back and forth. The idea of this is that we can actually build up a knowledge within the user and the audience of this podcast, and hopefully the time to identify, isolate, and then fix an issue would be reduced. So Nitya is going to start off the series with an introduction to how troubleshooting and debugging works. Nitya, thanks for joining us this morning. All yours. Walk us through as to what you have.
Thanks, Sankarshan. Hi, everyone. Gluster, being a distributed system, consists of many different processes and components that interact with each other, so it is sometimes difficult to know how to troubleshoot issues. This is a quick introduction to where to start looking and what information to provide in case you need help. First, see if your issue is already described in our documentation at docs.gluster.org. The troubleshooting guide there lists some known issues, their symptoms, and how to recover from them. For other problems, say for instance a Gluster process crash, what we need to debug further is the core dump and the exact Gluster version being used. We need the debug symbols. In addition, the Gluster volume info, the process logs, information about the workload, etc. may also be requested, and a method to reproduce the crash would be ideal. If a Gluster process is using a lot of memory, state dumps taken at intervals are used to determine what data structures are being allocated and not freed. The troubleshooting guide again describes how to take and read such state dumps. For either of the above problems, the crash or the memory use, once you collect this information, please pass it on either at glusterusers.org or by filing a bug. Okay, for other issues, let's say your processes are still up, but something is failing. The first step is to check the logs of the failing component for messages that indicate what went wrong. There are usually multiple Gluster processes running on each server node. These include the management daemon GlusterD, the brick processes, and depending on the services and volumes configured, the self-heal daemon, the quota daemon, the NFS server, and so on. Client mount processes may exist on non-server nodes as well. All logs are by default created in the var log glusterfs directory, and each Gluster process logs to a separate file. The logging section in the admin guide lists the various log files created by the Gluster processes. So once you identify the component that is causing the problem, please look at the log for that component, try to find the error that occurred. The message should usually have more detail. If you need more help, please send across all the varlog glusterfs contents to the developers, and we'll take a look. That's all for the first section. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nitya. So one of the things I would be doing is when I post the show notes, I'll also add the links to the troubleshooting guide so that it's handy. I'll also post this one back to the Gluster users list. Seeking feedback, as usual, those who are listening, if you want to provide feedback, it's either the users list or get in touch with us on Twitter, which is at Gluster, and we'll see how things go from there. I don't have specific highlights to report from work done in the Gluster project this week, other than the fact that there's this niggling issue that we discovered about large-sized VMs being copied that Kritika has been working on, and there's been some work, some patches that went in late last night that I saw. But I don't have details on it, so I don't want to include it in the show notes. I'll probably reach out to Kritika and see if we can talk about that next week. But that's all we have. Thanks again, Nitya, for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Bye
everyone.
Now.